Be friendly!
Greatest contact. A single bogey and it's nearly on top of us.
Identify.
No transponders, no recognition codes. It has to be a silent raider.
Okay, so we're having a semi-success, I would say. I've got the SD card formatted, or micro SD card formatted in FAT32, and then you create an additional folder called 01, and then you name songs 1 through 9, 001, and then whatever you want to, 002, and whatever you want to, 003, and whatever you want to, and I would keep it below 8 characters just because. So this pin is a ground, and this pin is a ground. For these two are power, okay. This is a ground, so if you put that onto ground there, and if I power up, that gives you the flashing red. On the bypass, I don't know what that does. On the other ground, I don't know what that does when I hit it. A10 is considered the stop, which means your music stops when you put it on A10. But if I use any of the others and hit my switch, it works. And then, like I said, if you go back to A10 and close the circuit in A10, hit your switch and it stops. Supposedly, you're supposed to be able to bypass something with a momentary switch, so it just goes to the next song, to the next song, to the next song. One way, I guess, to do that would be to see if you hit this, power this back up, and then see if it goes through all 8 songs in a row. But that's not what I want. I want to be able to repeatedly press the momentary switch and then have it advance to the next song. I've seen a demo on that on YouTube for this board, and I'm just not quite sure if the boards are identical or how that works. I will say this, for a little board, this thing can crank up some sound. And I'm not sure if I've got enough current draw with this to keep this running at 5 volts. And I'm sure because I'm giving it all kinds of fits here, just trying to, yeah, so I think I lost my ground there. So I'm not going to fiddle with it. I don't want to blow it up, but I do know it works. I do know I can get music out of it. I simply need to do a little more research and figure out what is going on with that particular sound chip. So I would say we're, as an old friend of mine used to say, what we have there is a good start, and I think that's right. So I'm going to continue to work with this chip at a later time because it's not going into this, particular build. It's going into one of my Star Trek builds, as you heard some of the Star Trek tunes there. So the weathering here, I'm not thrilled with the way that this is turning out. It looks dirty to me, but you know what? I'm not going to turn back now. There's nothing I can do about it. The weathering's been done. It looks a little bit older, but to me it just looks dirty and you know, not necessarily what I was hoping out of a weathering. You guys are pros at that, watching you weather, and nicely done. But I said it before, I like building kits that look pristine, look like they come out of the door. So my Mark II and my Mark VII and the next, the Cylon Raider from the reimagining, those are going to be done without weathering. And I'll practice weathering on other models, but I've never liked doing it. I don't enjoy doing it, and you know, it's just not something that I find appealing in model building. Like I said, I like building pristine kits, and we'll see if we can't continue to do so. So for now, we're going to now finally, since I've sated my curiosity with that sound chip, The next thing is I want to really button this up now. I need to wire some stuff up, do some soldering. I'm not going to do that tonight, but like I said, I am thrilled that I've made the progress we've made, or I've made on this, and Floppy Modeler is one step closer to completing this first Mark II. And I will say this, it's been a fun kit. The kit went to weather exceptionally well, and the lighting I think looks fantastic for a new attempt at the PE photo etch parts there. The landing light, when it's on that red and on this pearlescent white, lights up a little bit, and then like the other piece is that when this from the side, and I'll do a side view on the final reveal, these lights that are in the runway actually light up, kind of give a glow on the bottom of the model, which was an unexpected bonus when it came to that. I do have the Colonial Viper nameplate and the emblem, and I think what I'm going to do is affix that here, and then actually do the emblem. Might do that here just for a little bit of variety's sake. I think that would look cool, or I might do it on the front. So that is yet to come when we get to that. And then the other question is, do I paint those or just leave them brass? I think painting or just maybe clear coating them might be enough. But we'll see. We'll see how I'm satisfied or dissatisfied. The other thing I'm pretty satisfied with, I got to wire the strobe in too, are these seams. And they're not perfect seams. I didn't mean them to be perfect seams. This is all glued down. They're not going anywhere now. So if it's not what I like, we're all done except for rip it out and try it again. But I like that seam look. I think again it gives me that kind of that steel panel or steel plates and running down the launch tubes out of the Battlestar Galactica pieces. And again, this is kind of my own imagination working at play here and having a little bit of fun with that. But I watch these guys do these dioramas that are absolutely phenomenal. They're off the charts that take hundreds of hours to do. I'm not going to put that much time into it, but I will say I am having just a lot of satisfaction with the way the look of this has come together, the way that the momentary switch works on some of those other things, and like I said, we'll continue to work on the sound card a little bit later. But I've got to wire in the strobe in the base, and that's going to be pretty straightforward. I've got to wire in the little power supply I was using just a second ago into the base. And again, I'm thrilled with that discovery that I'm able to do that. And I found a whole bunch of these little ones, like I was showing you here. I found a whole bunch of these little ones for $4 at Myers, at the Meyer gas station. So I might buy 4 or 5 of those just to power models in the future, and keep them on hand and keep them here. These are a little more expensive. I think they're $15 a piece, 10 or 15 bucks a piece. And although they've got 4,000 milliamps, since they're rechargeable and these are rechargeable, I think this might be easier to put into some models. Like this probably could have concealed in that model had I been planning. Maybe, maybe not. But there are certainly some models that you could conceal that in, and then not have to use a base, just do a simple switch. And and I might try to look at that for the Cylon Raider. I've got the lighting kit from Starship Modelers. I'm excited about it and we'll show that at a later time. But this might be a good opportunity to try one of those inside of the body of that Cylon Raider, rather than running it down to a base. And I've got an idea of what I'm going to do for the Mark II, the Mark VII, and the reimagined Cylon Raider. And I think that's going to just be one big diorama, big project that we'll tackle at a later date. But for now, we're going to continue to look at a couple of things here on the weathering, and I do like the way that this turned out, adding a couple of stripes on the edges and so forth here. So some of it's good, but some of it I'm just not necessarily thrilled with. I think the bottom turned out actually probably a little better, a little nicer than the top, but again, I probably will need to take a lot of weathering courses or just watch a lot of guys do it or practice, honestly, to figure out how to make this happen. So for now, go enjoy building a model. I sure have enjoyed this one. So we're closing in on the Part 5 and final Part 5 update and then the final reveal. I'll do that in 2 separate videos. I'm just working on trying to finalize a couple pieces. I'm this close, as they say, to getting this finished. So there are a few more steps, and then once those steps are completed, I'll be able to kind of wrap the Moebius models, wrap up the Moebius models 1/32 scale Colonial Viper Mark 1. And so a couple of things left to do. I've got to glue in the nose. I've not done that yet, so that is the next step there. Glue in the nose. The base of the pilot is done. I'm just working on the helmet. What I'm going to do for the helmet, so a couple of little tricks I hope will work, and I think this is small enough you won't be able to see it. If you remember on the Colonial Viper helmets, again, it's got a real Egyptian look. What I need to do yet is in the centerpiece here, which is like an eagle or something like that, in the helmet, I've got to do a real bright gold on that. This is titanium gold is all I painted this with. And then flesh tone on the face, and then if you remember, the Colonial Viper helmets had that white line around their chin, which is essentially that white light that lit up their faces for filming, so they actually see what they were doing. So because of the scale and because my eyes get older as every year, all I essentially did, this had been white primered. I just left this white primer white and just painted gold around it, freehand, and then I'm done. And I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours worrying about that. So that'll be taken care of. This Colonial emblem is glued on. I am conflicted about what to do with the Colonial Viper here. I'd like to put it on the side of this. I think it's a very nice little piece of photo etch. But what I did, I took sandpaper to the entire Colonial, or until the entire photo etch front end, in order to help, and back end to help that glue. If I had known where I was going to put this, I would not have taken sandpaper across that, because that is a lot of scratches and just, you know, it's got sanding marks all over it, and it's just, even though it looks a little bit antique-y now, I would not think that that's a nice look for this. But when it's down, yeah, you can see it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Maybe paint that the color orange of the Viper, or maybe the white or the red. Just basically have an opportunity to do something like that. The entire base is wired in, and we'll go through the switches at a later date for the final reveal. And what we're able to put together, again, the red, yellow, green lights, and then 3 whites on each side. And when I do the reveal, you'll see from the side how that really lights up the base of that. I did use the opportunity to use my power block. It's wired in and can be quickly pulled and recharged as many times. This has been running for a couple of hours now with the engines running at full tilt and with some of the other things going on. So from that standpoint, I'm thrilled with the battery, and I'm still at I think like 99 or 95% on the battery charge. So a lot of life, a lot of long distance event on that. Back to the weathering, I am not pleased. I really have to figure out how to do that well, or do it at all, quite honestly, and do it right. So I think on the Mark II in a future build, that is not going to be weathered. That is going to be a pristine, the way that Starbuck lands it when she comes back from her mission where Apollo apparently sees her blow up. So when she arrives back in a pristine white Viper with nothing wrong, nothing on it, and essentially ready to go. This is down now. I haven't done the front, but I glued in the landing bay doors on the backs and the fronts, and you'll see that later in the reveal. And the way that this sits on here, the way that it looks, I'm really excited about that. And once we get the pilot wrapped up, we'll be able to put the canopy back in and have that down and finished up. And then I still have to do these 2 or 3 little light leaks, and I can do that fairly simply, I think. and then finally put the pilot in and close it up, and that should finish up the Colonial Viper, the Mark I from the original series, 1978, I believe, is when that came out. So I'm going to continue to finalize some more work and tighten down my my switches so that they're all aligned and look good in that arena, and we will we'll proceed. And so we'll be back shortly with the final reveal, I believe, because you don't need to see what's going to happen to wrap this up, and then we'll come back for the final reveal. It's been fun. It's been a fun build. A couple of, using the new power blocks as juice rather than a plug. Running this at 5 volts is absolutely perfect for brightness. Everything from the front end to the back end to my strobe that's bleeping along. And we'll just see if we can't change that up just for a quick view for people who want to see it at home. There's you just were watching the one strobe light. Here's the second, and now the third, which is a slow ramp up and a slow ramp down. Not as obvious on the slow ramp down due to the SMD, that there's not bulk of a full LED bulb that you could see retain its glow. So on the SMD, that's a little tougher look to pull off, although that look, the ramp up, the flash, and the ramp down that we're running right now is actually not bad. Here's just solid on, and then back to my personal favorite for an anti-collision light with that double strobe. So Flytron.com for those circuits. Again, about $5 a piece when you get them from the UK. I'm here in Michigan. It takes about 3.5 weeks to get them in. So if you're looking at a project, order accordingly according to your timeline. And so that is new. So new strobe, new power block, and weathering. Some of the challenges that I took on with this particular model, and some I rose to the occasion, and obviously others total, utter, and complete failure. But you know what? That's how we learn in the modeling community. So until I speak to you again, go out and enjoy building a model. Thanks.